when I went searching, it was for this passion because I wanted to wake up every day excited, enthusiastic, driven. But what we came to find out down the road was that without purpose, that energy can just be like, when you fill up a balloon and you let it go and it just like sputters everywhere. I think that's a really great way to describe what passion is. It gives you a lot of momentum, but if you don't give it a direction, if you don't put purpose, you can end up pretty much anywhere.
I'm Al Roker. I'm here with Equalman.
Word of mouth is now world of mouth.
Because someone asked, what's the social play? What's the mobile play? Our clients and customers are telling us, hey, we love what you're doing here. Are you doing more of that today? What I'm telling you here today, I'm not suggesting we get rid of face-to-face. Digital leaders are made, not born.
Welcome to today's Super You podcast. I couldn't be more excited. I got in front of me and sitting with me here, we've got Kendall and John Antonelli.
Woo woo!
Owners and founders of Antonelli's Cheese Shop. So we're going to unpack a lot of things for all you entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs out there just to get some tips and tricks. They're coming up on their 10th anniversary, which you always hear me talk about, that only 2% of companies make it to 10 years. That's make it. That doesn't mean they're excelling. And these folks are excelling. You're going to love them. I love them. So we're going to get right into it.
We're so excited to be
Thanks
here.
For having us, Erik. Way to build us up.
Yeah.
No, thanks for coming in. So I always like to start things off with, what's the oldest memory that you can recall from your childhood?
Awesome.
Okay, so my oldest memory is both of my parents took off traveling in different areas of the world, and I was fortunate enough that they hauled me along with them. And my dad was opening up a dental clinic in Namche in Nepal in the Himalayas. And so we went hiking in the Himalayas, and the one snapshot I remember is I just sat down and started crying, and I couldn't hike anymore. I couldn't move anymore. And this couple walked up to me, and they said, "Oh, I'm going to tell you a joke." And I said, "What?" And little did I know they were trying to set me up, and they were telling me a joke so that I would run up to my dad and tell my joke. And I'm sure these people are thinking, this man has left his daughter, he's hiking way ahead. So they told me my first joke, and I remember it to this day, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It gave me enough energy and fuel to stand back up. I was so excited I knew my first joke, and I ran up the rest of this part of this mountain to tell it to my dad.
I love it. Now, what is the joke?
All right, that was, a lot of build-up for that joke. This guy's walking this gorilla down the street, and the policeman sees him and says, "Hey, you can't be out here. Take that ape to the zoo." So the guy takes him to the zoo. Next day, the same guy and same ape are walking down the street, and the policeman comes up and says, "Hey, I thought I told you to take that ape to the zoo." And he said, "I did yesterday. Today I'm taking him to the movies." It's like the only joke I've ever been able to properly tell in my entire life.
I still love it. Yeah, for me, I had two earliest memories. They're both food related, if you can imagine. One is just sitting on my kitchen floor as a kid, my mom making sausage sauce, which was sort of the thing that we ate once a week as a family. So just sitting there smelling the food and listening to her talk. And the other one is a trip we did as kids to San Francisco, and that morning we got to eat. Every morning we had croissants and hot chocolate, which was like a super treat. Every single day of that trip, and that's what popped into my head when you asked the question. It's awesome.
I love it. And I think a lot of our listeners out there dream about doing what you've done.
Right.
So at some point, I guarantee that 90% of our listeners I want to open a cheese and wine shop.
Yeah,
Why would I want
heck
to do
yeah,
that?
why not?
It sounds so cool, it's sexy, it's got everything. So if you don't mind, give us the full origin story. You can do it comic book style, whatever you want, but just give us the full origin story.
Yeah, we were in Grenada in the Caribbean, sitting on the beach on our honeymoon.
It was amazing.
And what were you reading, John?
I was reading a book by Isaac Asimov, the Foundation series, and we were sitting there. It was like day 2 of the honeymoon, and this book, it's a great teen sci-fi book. It's awesome. And I was thinking about my future, and I was also drinking a lot of pink and green and purple drinks.
Oh, you don't drink anything green. It's
umbrella?
pink and purple with umbrellas.
Pink and purple with umbrellas. Yeah, they were amazing.
You have to be able to see the beach to have an umbrella in your drink. That's just the
So
rule.
I was on the beach, so it counts, but I would still do it off the beach. And so I was sitting there and I was thinking about my future. I'm a CPA by trade, so I was doing audit work at Deloitte & Touche, and I had just had the most amazing wedding. I have the most amazing wife. We have amazing dogs, a great house. And the only thing in the equation that wasn't stacking up was the work that I was doing, the job. And And I was thinking back to my time as at Georgetown, and doing all the work that I did, all of the activities, all of the schoolwork, all of the fun that we had. And I wasn't happy with that future of my career. And so I leaned over to Kendall and I said, Kendall, I'm going to quit my job when we get home. I joke with Kendall, and this is just my saying, and it's just that not everybody loves auditors, but everybody loves cheese. So like, when you go to work as an auditor, sometimes you get stuck in a closet, sometimes you get stuck in a room with no windows.
For all my Dirty Dancing fans out there, I always say no one puts baby in a corner, and John worked in a lot of corners.
Yeah. So it was unfulfilling for me. And so we didn't know what I was going to do.
No, okay. So literally, I'm reading my romantic, cheesy book. Don't judge us.
Our
We're on our
honeymoon.
honeymoon,
It was
okay?
awesome.
And he turns to me and says, I'm going to quit my job. I mean, straight up. And so I said, what are you going to do? And he said, something in cheese. And one of the things that, it's as hokey as it sounds, is you say that you just want to make people happy and everybody likes cheese. But you turned to me and said it that day, and then I was like, what does that look like? What do you mean you're going to do something in cheese?
So over the course of those few weeks on our honeymoon, we talked about it, and we spent time kind of diving into it, and it was searching for my passion, right? I wanted to have a job that got me as excited as everything else in my life. And so that feeling of jumping out of bed in the morning, hitting the ground running, putting as much energy as I could into it to make myself a better person, so that Kendall would be married to a better person every single day of her life.
You said I could go get an MBA and come out of school with a lot of debt and a business plan, or I believe in my skill set. I can write a business plan, put that money straight into a business, and if I don't have something open in 2 years, I'll go back to being a CPA. So we always say, make me an offer you can't refuse. And I said, all
How
right.
old were you at the time?
Oh gosh, I don't have any idea.
26.
25?
25.
Maybe 25.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in having a conversation with this younger guy thinking about switching, and you just hit it right on the head. Is you guys ask yourself, can I always get the job that I have?
Yeah.
And most of the time the answer is yes, and so that takes a lot of the risk. There's still a ton of risk, but it takes a lot of the risk out of it. So you go and do your own kind of MBA for these 2 years.
Right.
Is it when you start the planning, and walk us through that? So you go, I'm going to
Sure.
do this, and just
So the other thing that I did at that time was got an internship at Kirby Lane Cafe, which is a local 24-hour diner. There was 4 locations at the time, and a friend of ours from college, we bumped, after I'd made this crazy decision, bumped into him at a happy hour one night and told him what I was planning to do. And when you put things out in the universe, awesome things typically come back. Kendall and I believe in that a lot. And so I was telling him about my sort of new plan to sort of find my passion, and I had no idea what food service was. And so his father and mother owned the Kirby Lane Cafe, so he put me in touch, got me an internship, and I spent 6 months, 3 months in the internship learning everything from dishwashing to serving to hosting to helping develop menu items, working in the commissary. So I got this amazing sort of intense 6 months experience in food service. And we walked out of there knowing that I never wanted to cook that much bacon ever again in my life. So what's really important about finding your passion with purpose, or at least what Kendall and I talk about, is you need to first often find out what you don't want before you end up narrowing it into what you do want. And so I got a ton of value in that first 8 months of learning what things that we didn't want.
And I guess we've seen too with a lot of guests that they're willing to take an internship, that's kind of humbling.
Yeah.
But also it's just they're willing to even work for free because it teaches you what you don't want to do, but it also teaches you, I'm working for free now, do I love it?
Yeah.
It sounds like you love certain parts of it. And so
The hospitality behind it was amazing. Absolutely. And
But it was through that we realized it was keeping you away from me more. You were working long hours, and that's what the restaurant industry and life is. And we really had to get together and vision together and put your paper to our wall at various different times in our life. And that one was, okay, we want to be together. And what does this future look like together? And you quit your job in our honeymoon so we could be together more and happy. And that's when we decided, okay, well, we're good at eating and we're good at talking. And they usually say your strengths are what you're good at, naturally good at. So we're like, so our strengths are eating and talking.
And being together.
And that we're at our best when we're together, and that we wanted to travel, and how do we put that all together?
I love that. A lot of listeners in today's age, it's almost a double. It's always, a lot of times it's a husband and wife combination.
Yeah.
My beautiful wife's over here would be nothing without working together. And so there's some learnings to that. It's not always easy. And so for our listeners out there, are there any guidelines? You mentioned one, some rules that you have. Is there anything that you've learned? How did you kind of get better at it over time?
We have a lot of guidelines and rules, and we break them all the time. And I think the most important thing is realigning them. So typical things like no business in the bedroom from the moment we
cell
open the
phones.
doors. Like put away your cell
Is
phone.
that a certain time or at night, or is it just in the house? Like what? It's just, or is it just a certain room?
John now, when he gets home, when we get home, so our typical day is, we'll take him through a typical
Well,
day. You started off. John gets up
I'll
at 4,
answer
4:30.
I'll answer this question because I think, and then I'll do that because I like that one. Will take a while.
So now you're witnessing one of our quarrels.
At 5:15, and when we get home at night, that's the kids' time. That you've got to dedicate certain time to the parts of your life that matter. And so for me, the kids' time starts when I get home at night. And so I put my phone away, I turn off notifications, and that's how I operate.
That's pretty cool. And then so obviously you've got 3 locations. What you do is amazing because you put customers first, as you mentioned, and you're telling stories, but you're allowing when people come to your stores and then they have a story. And then when I've been to a party where all the cheese was supplied by you, it's fantastic and wonderful.
Yes.
And now not only is the person, the host, that put that on, Trish, have an amazing story to tell, but now everyone that was there just saw the amazing layout, and then they tell the story. So what you do is super wonderful. Now walk us through the darkest moment. It might be different for both of you to when you're sitting there, like when was it, how far in, and you said, what are we doing? Like this isn't gonna happen.
The darkest challenges often have come from risks that we took. We took a big risk last year opening a downtown location in 2019.
2018.
2018, sorry, yeah, January of 2018. We ended up closing that location at the end of the year because once we started operating, we identified that the assumptions that we made based off of the best data that we had were not coming to fruition. And so that project transitioned from what was going to be a retail shop to what turned out to be more or less a grilled cheese concept. And we had already said a few minutes ago on the podcast that we didn't want to stand over a griddle and cook grilled cheese every day. We knew that 10 years ago. And so when we were sitting together in September of this last year talking about the future of our business, and we were realigning ourselves quite a bit, we talked about our core principles, and be true to yourself and to others is one of our core principles. And we, looking back, it was one of our team members that pointed it out, because we were going to have to either make an investment and change the entire sort of concept and flip the concept, or something else that just as dramatic. And I presented the ideas that I had, and one of my team members said, "Don't forget the core principles." And
Are you really passionate about that?
Does this have passion with purpose? Are you being true to yourself? And Kendall and I went home that day and decided that we were going to close
And we said,
that
and it was
location.
easy to answer. We said no.
No.
And the answer was easy. Getting there was tough because we're hard workers. Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants that on their resume. And
His question was,
Yeah.
is it going to fail? What if this new concept succeeds?
that's what he said.
Because you built something that then owns you, and that's exactly why you didn't.
Do
That's
it.
why you got
Yeah.
10 years ago, you wanted to
Right.
get out of that, and all of a sudden that happens all the time. You build something that now controls you.
Exactly. And so that has been a very challenging experience for me. Closing a business line, which is what we did, has people impact. It's hard. Those decisions are big. They impact more than just Kendall and I now. So that was one experience. I would say another one was in those first 8 months. We hadn't gotten a day off, and we
It
were
was
together every
simultaneously
day.
exhilarating, seeing our names on menus around the town. And we went out, and I remember I had a drink at a Draft House pub, which is 2 blocks away, and we're sitting down and we're just taking a load off. And we knew life would never be the same when this lady goes, my cheesemonger, you're my cheesemonger. And we just started laughing to ourselves, like, what have we done? But that was very intentional when we chose to brand ourselves as our business, because so many people get caught up in this work-life balance. And I said, you know what? I think the tension comes from when you're trying to separate the two and you're calculating it, and it's a zero-sum game and 5 hours here and 5. Instead, if we can just put it all into one big melting pot and have some rules of the game that help us succeed a little bit more or less, but that was the way to win for us. And so for us, that's where work is play and play is work. And there are times that both are challenging, but when we travel for work now, we take our kids with us, and we're able to do that. And so we're coming up on a trip going to Spain where we're visiting all of our producers, because we have a goal. Part of our mission is to do good, eat good. And we want to see how all the food we may sell is made, and we can speak to the ethics behind it. But we're taking our kids along with us, and we're going to go visit cheesemakers. And so putting it all into that one melting pot has been amazing for our brand, but it was challenging that one night when she came up and said that. But we realized everything was going to be different for us, for better or for worse, and then we've always tried to channel it for better.
I love that. It's not easy to do. It's not perfect every day, and I think that's what entrepreneurs need to understand, those starting out, that it's messy. But it's really, and I love what you guys said, is always looking at it and going, hey, what does success look like on this piece? Sometimes you got to kill part of the business, because it's about what's going to be best for the customer, and what's best for the customer is always best for you, starting with you first. So this has been amazing just to sit down with you, and I can't wait to have you back on the show, because we've only just scratched the surface. I can't thank you enough. I know the listeners are going to get so much out of it. You guys are amazing. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Eric.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was great.
Woo!